Chapter 8, Mafia Politics, like swimming with sharks in a bloody pool. The mafia life and the politics were treacherous and deadly, and Boxer Enriquez got embroiled in it shortly after he became a made guy. There was deceit, dissension, and deception all around him. He remembers feeling fearful and uncomfortable from the beginning, but he kept it all inside. His sponsor, Sloppy Elmore, defected, and not long after he died of AIDS. Laeme was involved in prison administration, approved peace negotiation with blacks, and that became a source of mafia's tensions too. Godfather Joe Morgan opposed the truce of any kind, but he was transferred to another prison. It was 41-year-old Nico Velasquez of La Puente who acted as one of M's representatives and negotiated a truce that allowed all Mexican mafia members and their associates to return to the general population mainline. No more special housing unit too. Nico, during this period, was seen talking to the associate warden on a number of occasions, and some of the hardcore brothers didn't like that. He had also found religion and was outwardly preaching to other MA members. That didn't set well with the hardliners either. There wasn't supposed to be any God squad in the mob. Nico was a heroin addict and a killer, like most of the carnales, but he had an outgoing personality that embraced the younger brothers. He always addressed them affectionately as mijo, making them feel like family. He had a face that resembled actor-singer Sammy Davis Jr., and as a big prison dope dealer, he was always willing to share his product to get along. A boxer like Nico. A half-dozen other carnales secretly plotted to kill Nico for what they saw as his transgressions. Their private meeting was interrupted by Raymond Garduno, aka Weddle Squire, a tall Vietnam vet who looked a lot like actor Jim Nabors, the main character in the 1960s TV sitcom Gomer Pyle, USMC. He'd overheard the conspirators, so Weddle Squire confronted them about their scheme to hit Nico without a vote from all the other Emmett brothers at Folsom. They ignored his concerns and admonished him not to rat them out to the other carnales. Boxer was enthralled by Weddle Squire's war stories and appreciated the fact that he was always calm, methodical, and level-headed. So he was receptive when Squire came to him and voiced his uneasiness about those conspiring to kill Nico. Enriquez agreed that Nico was a dedicated mafioso who had done nothing wrong. More than a dozen other mobsters there felt the same way, including Weddle Shy, Negro, Sloppy, and Gilbert, Silver Tongue, Gil, San Estevan. The next day, a scared but ready boxer joined a group led by Weddle Shy and Weddle Squire as they came out to the yard armed with knives, telling the plotters, "You're not going to kill anybody. We have all the knives right now. You try it and we'll kill you." Nothing better happened to Nico. He hasn't broken any rules, and the conspirators let it go. Their hit on Nico would have been unsanctioned. Everyone was supposed to vote on the killing of another brother. Those were the rules. The plotters didn't like the dissent and quickly ostracized Boxer and his closest supporters. Enriquez also suspected he was put on their hit list. "I was a new member. I didn't have that much voice, much clout. In mafia parlance, he lacked palabra or influence, but Nico Velasquez lived for now." The rival MA faction was led by two old school carnales who did have clout and charisma and were mafia titans compared to the young Enriquez. One was 38-year-old Raimundo Bevito Alvarez of Wilmas, a highly touted veteran of 1970s prison warfare who had killed a black guerrilla family shot caller and a Nuestra Familia general and stabbed at least a half dozen other fameros. The other was a 46-year-old Ernest Kilroy Roybal White Fence, who had a raspy mobster voice, no tattoos, a strange-looking front tooth framed in gold, and a receding hairline with slicked back salt and pepper hair that had an orange tint from an overuse of Grecian formula. He stood well over 6 feet tall, enjoyed boxing in his younger days, and was often called Shug, short for sugar, after well-known prize fighters. Kilroy was a well-respected, straight-up mafioso until he did heroin. Then he turned into a different person, becoming a clown-like figure who went into a kung fu routine, slapping his own face and repeatedly yelling, "I'm on the front row." Sometimes, says Boxer, it was embarrassing, and guards told us to take him off the yard. It's almost like Lencho saying, I am the general, I am the general. Kilroy was doing time for armed robbery and murder, had spent most of his life behind bars, and had become somewhat of a legend for his ruthless enforcement of Miami's rigid code of honor. Bevito was medium in height and weight, had thick black hair shagged down in the back with eyebrows and a Fu Manchu mustache to match, tattoos scattered on his arms, and wide-set brown eyes with a hazel ring around the perimeter of his iris. Boxer thought Bevito had a superiority complex and felt he was better than all other carnales. An oddity considering that his moniker, Bevito, means baby in Spanish. Clearly, he had a lot of political savvy and he didn't care for the young Boxer at all. According to internal California Department of Corrections intelligence documents, Bevito felt that new MA recruits weren't properly screened or voted on. MA is not what it was. The new MA are nothing but addicts and have no goals. He also blamed MA for his wife divorcing him and for the lack of support he had in a dispute with another brother. That brother was MA pioneer Michael Eisen, known as Iceman, for his cold-blooded approach to murder, and Acha for his pure love of violence. Once he stabbed an inmate 51 times in the Greystone Chapel at Folsom. He even threw a spoon at singer Johnny Cash, hitting him in the forehead while he sang Folsom Prison Blues. Hatchet, Acha in Spanish, then screamed, "You son of a bitch, you're not fucking obligated to sing that song every fucking year." Acha Eisen was also a close friend of Peg Leg Morgan's. Bevito Alvarez and Eisen did a residential robbery together in 1982 in Santa Maria, California. Afterward, they were caught and Eisen didn't talk to him at all during the arrest. Acha made bail and Bevito did not. Then Bevito claimed that Acha, 3 days later, tried to extort $3,000 from his wife, breaking an MA rule not to mess with another member's family. Eventually, Bevito was convicted of the robbery and sent to prison, where he felt that other carnales were not supportive of his complaints against Eisen. He planned to kill Acha at first, but then came up with another scheme to inflict much pain. Bevito decided to cause confusion and deception in the organization. It was a grab for power. He got Kilroy to go along. Once, back on the main line, there was some old mafia business that Bevito and Kilroy thought needed immediate attention. And what developed made Boxer worry about the capricious nature of the mafia rules. A few years earlier, Alfie Sosa had requested protective custody in prison, which is seen as a cowardly act after a bloody fight he had with Alejandro Mo Farrell. Mo apparently attacked Alfie from behind while he was washing his face in his cell and beat him up badly. Others believe to this day that Alfie was sexually molested as well. Oh shit. It's a cardinal rule that a brother is not to raise a hand against another brother without sanction. On the other hand, Black Dan and Wedo Shai, Boxer's mentors, were planning to hit Alfie, not Mo, because they felt he showed cowardice when he asked for protective custody. 36-year-old Mo Farrell was another strong, charismatic brother with some smarts, known for his exploits at San Quentin in the 1970s, including the executions of 2 out-of-favor MA brothers. Clearly, he was a threat to Bevito and Kilroy. So Bevito and Kilroy decided to give Alfie a pass and make Mo pay with his life. On December 15, 1985, Mo was butchered in his cell. Boxer told the story. Danny Boy Pina, grabbed Farrell in a headlock and started to stab him. A husky, Angel Valencia, then ran in with a knife and escalated the attack as Ruben Tupi Hernandez held the cell door closed. Mo never made a squeak as he tried to fight them off, taking blow after blow, dozens of stab wounds, and when it was over, he looked at his assailants and said, "All right, you killed me, I'm dying. Go ahead and leave before you get caught." Sammy Negro Villalba was assigned to keep a lookout for guards, but the assailants were caught in the act anyway. Later, Mo walked out of his cell, refusing help from prison staff, made it to a waiting gurney, lay down, and went into a coma. 12 weeks later, he woke up, ripped out the IVs and tubes in his chest and said, "If I can't be a carnal, I don't want to live. That's it, I want to die." He did. Boxer said what happened to Mo Farrell scared the shit out of me because of the way the mafia rules were applied so arbitrarily. It's not the fact that Mo was hit as much as it was the fact that Alfie escaped with no punishment at all. And the hits kept on coming. According to the reports by the California Department of Corrections, between 1985 and 1986, there were approximately 100 hits at Folsom. Boxer remembers, "We did so many hits and got away with them, it was ridiculous." That's how loose it was back in prison. That's how loose it was in prison back then. Prison stabbings became the norm. It was almost entertainment. Mafiosi on a boring day would sit in the backyard bleachers and ask, "Who's getting hit today?" The attacks were accompanied by grotesque black humor. Faces contorted in pain, stabbing victims stumbling toward death, and the emptying of a dying man's bladder into his pants induced laughter in the hard mafia onlookers. "You get a sick charge out of it," explained Boxer. He and his Emmett brothers became desensitized to the real horror. Of murder. Boxer and his homie Sammy Negro Villalba one afternoon were sitting at the domino tables next to the handball courts at Folsom. Negro usually had a life of the party kind of personality, but he had hidden a dark side, as black as the skin that earned him the nickname Negro. That included a sexual episode with a barnyard calf. Negro said, "AB is going to whack this guy." "Which one?" asked the curious Boxer. Negro pointed out an Aryan Brotherhood associate standing in the line waiting to go back to the cell block for 2 o'clock recall. He was holding a large Bible in his left hand, his arm hanging down at his side. The hitman walked up beside him and pulled out a huge knife. "Just the sight of it would kill you," recollects Boxer. "That's how massive it was." Pow! The sound of the knife blow echoed across the yard. Then again, pow! The target jumped back from the impact of each strike before the stabber calmly walked away and dumped the weapon in a nearby ice machine. The stunned victim was still standing, rubbing his side and feeling his body, searching for the signs of blood oozing from a fresh wound or two. There were none. Then he held up his Bible and noticed 2 slash marks across the cover. In his panic, he had inadvertently used the Lord's book to shield himself from the devilish knife blows. Negro looked over at Boxer. God was truly with him today. The 2 carnales exploded with laughter. Not every hit was a kill, but it might as well have been. Once an inmate was stabbed, noted Boxer, he was marked as a loser. He was fair game for anyone and might as well be dead, especially if he was a carnal. Negro Villalba was ordered to do a hit on a Mexican national named Veracruz, a tough guy with no affiliation, who went to the yard surrounded by M members and associates and still had the gall to disrespect Alfie Sosa by throwing water in his face. There was an unsuccessful hit at the weight pile, and still, Veracruz refused to go into protective custody. The next day, Negro attacked him in a stairwell on the 3rd tier of 3 blocks with a huge foot-long, 1.5-inch wide steel shank, a real bone crusher. Negro stabbed him so many times that he thought for sure he killed the guy, and shortly afterward, he went by Veracruz's cell, expecting to see him balled up on the floor and dying. Instead, he saw his victim pulling out Time magazines from inside his shirt. During the attack, he'd worn a protective vest made out of the periodicals, and it saved his life. The next day, a robust Veracruz was back out on the yard. This time, it wasn't so funny. Vito started telling everyone that Negro was a half-hearted coward for failing to kill Veracruz. That was dangerous talk because the mafia executed cowards. Boxer feared even more that he and Negro might then be on the hit list and intensified their political turmoil with Vito. At the same time, he was having second thoughts about his decision to join MA. "This is not going to last for me. It isn't the brotherhood I thought it was, and I'm going to quit. This is not what I'm about. I was an uncertain, nervous, scared kid, really, trying to function with all these notorious mafia titans. I wasn't comfortable in my skin as a mafioso yet. I hadn't become completely cold like these guys who would stab you in a hot second as soon as they looked at you. I hadn't become that guy yet, but he was learning. But Vito and Kilroy were even bold enough to politic against Godfather Joe Morgan, pointing out that he wasn't Mexican. They insisted that no one should be in La M who was not Latino. It was becoming an all-nations mob, they complained, and they didn't like it. The inter-mafia violence extended to San Quentin, based in part on the bad blood between Bevito and mafioso Mike Hatchet Eisen, who was housed in the Big Q. In January 1987, all MA members were transferred out of Folsom and San Quentin because of the rash of violence at those institutions. Unfortunately, Boxer and Negro found themselves on the same cell block as rivals Bevito and Kilroy at a brand new maximum security prison, California Correctional Institution CCI at Tehachapi. The bloodletting, infighting, confusion, and ever-shifting loyalties continued. 25-year-old Raymond Frutos, a not-too-bright MA associate with the 18th Street gang, had his throat slit on the yard because he didn't share his coffee with the carnal. 3 weeks later, 29-year-old Jose Chavarria, the mafia member who hit Frutos, was stabbed by his cellmate, a 26-year-old MA associate named Rudolph Dominguez. A week after that, 44-year-old MA member Silent George Ruiz was stabbed. All of them were caught up in the mafia politics. Boxer felt negative vibes that he and his homeboy Negro Villalba might be next. We know we're going to get whacked. Anything said could be used against you. They should have posted a sign on the door leading to the yard. Say nothing or they'll kill you. That's how dangerous it was out there. It was like swimming in a pool of sharks when someone throws blood in the water. Luckily, Boxer and Villalba were transferred to another Tehachapi cell block away from the Bevito-Kilroy faction. Nico Velasquez, the same brother they had stood up for at Folsom, was also housed at the new Tehachapi prison. They had helped save his life. Unbelievably, he did a complete 180 turn and started to support Bevito and Kilroy, leaders of the faction that had secretly plotted to kill him a few months earlier. It didn't do him any good. 2 weeks after Boxer and Negro Villalba moved out, Nico was sitting in his cell writing a letter. His cellmate was 29-year-old Gabriel Sleepy Huerta Wimas, who was short and beastie looking with a bushy mustache and thick hair combed back. Other brothers also good-naturedly called him Burt because he had an extremely hairy chest like actor Burt Reynolds. Sleepy was studious, smart, and articulate, spoke several languages, and was well liked and respected by other members, including Nico. He was also a killer. As Nico turned to answer, Sleepy stuck a metal shank cut from a locker into his lower chest and drove it upward toward the heart. Nico Velasquez wouldn't preach his newfound religious beliefs to MA members anymore. He was dead. The fact that Sleepy killed him with a single blow earned him an additional nickname, the Professional. Boxer and others believed it was Bevito and Kilroy who had ordered the hit. Boxer was now in a cell block with MA legends Joe Morgan and Mike Hatchet Eisen, as well as stalwarts Weddle Shai Shryack and Fernando Fernie Bermudez. They were all also heavyweights in the faction opposed to Bevito and Kilroy. In all, there were about 10 MA members and 10 loyal associates on the yard. Everything changed again. Boxer was back in the right car. Sick of their politicking, this group wanted Bevito and Kilroy dead. Both were put on the lista, the hit list. It was over for them. Then Boxer Enriquez, after serving 9 years and 8 months in prison, was paroled. He went in a crook and came out a killer, more dangerous than ever. Plus, he had now learned the fine art of deadly mafia politics. I learned to prevail. I learned that if you keep your feet planted long enough and firm enough, you're going to come out all right. It's throwing everything you can at a guy for so long that some of the mud is going to stick, whether true or not. You can kill a guy with words, befriend him, be nice to him. When it comes to verbal confrontation, call him out. Me and you, let's go. He's already in a shaky position. 9 times out of 10, he'll back down. If not, you kill him. Boxer was now a cold, true mafioso.